Good morning, everyone. So welcome to another episode of Liquid Brain. So today we are talking about variant call format. So again, this is the part one of a multi-part video series on variant call format. So I don't know how many parts there is, but it's gonna be roughly surround the idea of variant call format. So the first part, of course, will be about the basic in variant calling, the reason of why we need to do variant calling, and why is variant call format the ideal format to use in this case. The second part will be about the actual data itself and how do you open a variant call format file and understand what is the meaning of every single component within the file format. So that maybe will be 2 videos. And lastly, will be followed up by a several example and try to understand based on the example if your understanding is correct on the previous slides, video, and so on and so forth. So finally, we'll finish up with a little bit of exercise and knowledge checking question to see if you can answer those questions. If you can, congratulations. And again, this is not a very advanced level variant call format video tutorial. It's relatively straightforward for people that never being able to comprehend this format to begin with, or people that never heard this before, and this is the first video that you watch, and I hope that will help you a little bit. And if you really are an expert in the variant call format, please also do correct me if I'm wrong, because I also learned all this thing from some other online sources, and I might interpret a certain file incorrectly. Okay, so all this actually come from the manual guide for the variant call format version 4.2. So I've linked the original document down here below. It's actually from Sam2 GitHub page and so on. Okay, so what is the variant call format actually? This is slide thing. Okay, so a variant call format is a specific type of file format of a text file that used in bioinformatics for storing genetic sequence variation. So the format has been developed with advent of the large-scale genotyping and DNA sequencing project, such as the 1000 Genome Project. Okay, so this is very useful to detecting, let's say, SMP as well as GWAS, so genome-wide genome-wide association studies, because they are able to very efficiently summarize the differences in multiple samples in a single file format, and the file format are relatively small compared to, let's say, BAM file, STEM file, and so on and so forth. Okay, so they are also just a text file format. It's very easy to open with any application that you want, as long as you can handle it. Because for very small file, let's say within 100 kilobyte, you can just open that in a notepad very easily. Anything bigger, you might need a little bit of tips and tricks to handle it. So one of it might be RStudio, so they're able to handle that quite easily with a readline function. Okay, so the objective of this series is basically a few. First of all, understand the basic in variant calling. When is it used? Why is it used? What is it for? And what are the application of the variant calling? So there's a benefit of variant call format, such as the VCF file format, how to read the metadata, how to read the VCF data, and understand the basic significance and difference in genetic mutation from data, as well as a real-world applications of this variant calling methodology and so on. Okay, so the basic of variant call, I think I've explained it multiple times. It's a process where which we identify variants from sequence data. So this is actually just come from a lot of data, let's say like the whole genome sequencing data, where you have 3 billion different sequences. So when you compare your sample to a reference genome, what are the actual differences between the 2 sequences, and you try to summarize that differences into a file. So they usually run through an alignment first before you can actually get your VCF, because VCF is a comparison between a reference and a sample. So you have to have that too in order for you to summarize them into a VCF file. Okay, so this is actually the official definition, and I have my own definition. It's just a way to store genetic data between sample and reference in a way that everyone can understand and everyone can analyze, and the file format is a lot smaller than other files such as SAM and BAM. Those are quite big. Okay, so you might also see something like BCF. So BCF is just a compressed version of VCF. So they're kind of not really interchangeable, but it's a compressed version of it. We'll go through it later down the video. Okay, so how do you visualize the idea of VCF is that you can see I've included multiple sequence alignment. So in this case, these are proteins data, but you can think of it as ATGC, just substitute that in, it's the same. So you can think of the first line over here is as the reference sequence, and everything else down there is the sample. So if you look at the line over here, you realize there's some mutation in this tree sample over here, there's some mutation over here, there's some mutation over here, some mutation over here. So instead of storing this whole alignment and present it every single time you want to do the analysis, we can just summarize this big sequence data into a few lines. First of all is the position and what are the changes between the reference and the sample, because that's the only thing that you know. So instead of storing every single sequence that you have, you can just store a reference sequence and a VCF. Then you kind of know, you can kind of reconstruct the sample sequences based on the VCF and the reference genome directly. Okay, so there are actually a few genetic modifications, because this is actually important to clear out now before we go down into VCF, so that you don't get confused of the terminology that they use. Okay, so there are 4 main types over here. The classification is based on the website that I use. There are many ways of doing the classifications. Okay, so the first 3 type is actually single nucleotide polymorphism, where it's only the changes between one single nucleotide. So transition and transversion, actually this website summarizes it very well, where transition is the changes of bases between the same shape. In this case, when an A, which is an adenine, is mutate into a guanine, so that is a transition. If your A is actually mutate into a cytosine, where there's a different structure, we call that as transversion. Okay, so transition are more likely to happen because the shape is the same, then usually doesn't cause too much of changes in the overall genetic code, as well as the codon structure, as well as all that thing. So a lot of silent mutation are actually transition, while transversion are usually more severe to the impact are more severe and usually introduce a worse mutation based on that. Okay. And there are also insertion deletion. So these are where are specifically called single nucleotide insertion and deletion. So we usually call them indel, which is the combination between insertion and deletion. So when we are talking about indel, that's what we are referring to. So besides single nucleotide polymorphism and single nucleotide mutation, there might be a code chunk that gets changed directly. So it is normal for, let's say, a transposomal element to just jump from one part of the genome to the other part. So there are 5 main types over here for this kind of code chunk mutation. I'm sure there's a technical term for that, but for like big chunk mutation, so there might be deletion, where you might missing the whole sequence chunk. There might be inversion, where the whole sequence get inverse, and there might be insertion, where there's one new chunk inserted in the middle of the genome. This is very, very common for viral infection, where the viral genome actually get integrated into the host. There might also be copy number variation, where the same gene get copied multiple times, and I think they use a lot in this for plants, so that they can actually get a stronger genetic traits and so on. So this is very similar to, let's say, duplication, where the code get duplicated. Okay, so this is just a few ways that we are trying to represent a certain thing, and mostly for use for communications, because the impact of all these things are not equal. Let's say an insertion can be as simple as a silent mutation. If they insert into a part of the codon that doesn't code for anything, nothing changes to the host. But if you have an insertion in the reading frame, you might silence the whole gene, or you might shift the reading frame and create a whole new protein that never been seen before. So these are just understanding of the mutation instead of the impact. We'll look at the impact on the case-by-case basis, because every single mutation can cause completely different it might completely change the phenotype of the host or not at all. Okay, so there are also some other file format that actually achieve somewhat similar structure. So one of it is the GFF file format, or the general feature format, or sometimes it's called the GTF, so the GTF3. So it is also very similar in a way that how they want to represent the changes and mutation and so on. However, GFF usually store the genetic data in, and is a lot bigger compared to VCF file. They both have their advantage and disadvantages, and there are certain situations where you use one over the other. But today we're going to talk about VCF. Okay, so finally, we go into what is VCF and when do we use it. So one of the most prominent example here is to have the two set of variant cell. In this case, you have two types of cell, one of the normal cell line and one of the tumor cell line, and you sequence both of their genome, and then you see what are the mutation between them. In this case, you might not even need to sequence whole genome. You might need to sequence just partial genome or even just exome part of it using, let's say, microarray and so on and so forth. Okay, so once we are able to put the two together, we align them to the references and look at the mutation between them, you can very easily isolate what is the tumor cell and what is the normal cell just based on the number of mutation alone. Because in a lot of time, tumor cell has a lot more mutation compared to the normal cell, which is why they are whack and they're complete they're complete whack up in their genome, which is why they become a tumor. So these are just a whole bunch of tools you can use to generate the VCF file or to analyze the VCF file and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are just the basic example of a VCF file. Again, is a text file and you can easily open up in your file editor and so on. I'll try to link example of a VCF down in the description below. If not, actually you can look at the slide and these are the example of a header. So just to summarize the thing we have on this video, we have talked about what is the VCF format, we have talked about what is variant calling, what are the type of mutation they have, and what is the comparison between VCF and GFF, and what is the one example we can use the VCF file, which is a comparison between a normal healthy cell and a tumor cell, and just by looking at the VCF file, we'll be able to differentiate the two different cell types with multiple tools that are included. So I'm going to stop here for today and we'll move on to the next video to actually understand what is the metadata and what is the data within the VCF file format itself. So thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.